some cookies and lemonade in the back. Feel free to treat yourselves to that, and we'll get going here in 5 minutes. We start group to you guys. So Jacob, if you want to come up and give us a prayer, we'll get rolling after that.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're very grateful for this time that we have to be here, and we're grateful for the time and effort that these presenters have put into preparing their TED Talks, and we pray that they'll be able to have confidence in their preparation and that we'll be able to all be able to give our utmost attention. We're grateful for this university and for the opportunities that we have to learn this kind of environment, and these things we pray in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Your job's a joke, you broke, your love life's the away. It's like you're always stuck in second gear. When it hasn't been your day, your week, your month, or even your year. But I'll be there for you. When the rain starts to fall, I'll be there for you. I'll be there for you. Still in bed at 10 and work again at 8. Burned your breakfast so far, things are going great. She didn't tell you when the road was rough, down to your knees. And I'll be there for you. I'll be there for you.
Naturally, because the theme is red and white, we picked the Canadian to speak to you guys. So I'm contractually obligated to fit as many a boot, and sorries into this. So we'll see how many I can go with. First up, speaking here, we got Devon Lamb. And Devon is from Dallas, Texas. He is studying communications with an emphasis in digital and social media. His dream job is to be a brand manager. A fun fact about Devon is that he hates the look of polos. This is awkward. He hates them to the point where he quit his job at the golf course because they forced him to wear a polo. I didn't coordinate well with this, but ladies and gentlemen, here is Devon Lamb.
What's up? So, it was summer of 2021 when I realized I should stop catfishing men on Roblox. My best friend was telling me that I need to do better, and I asked, what can I do? And he said, well, come to church. And I'm a very easy person, so I went, and after a year of being taught by the missionaries for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I decided to be baptized. And just 3 days later, I would move away from home up here to Rexburg, Idaho, and I was new to the church, new to the culture, new to everything out of my comfort. I thought, well, Utah, Idaho culture. Never heard about it, in for a change, in for a surprise. Took me 4 semesters to realize who I was. I was catfishing everyone as the dream convert who held the LDS standards very strictly, but I wasn't. I love the gospel so much, but the people that live in Utah and Idaho were just not it. The culture was just toxic, judgmental. So I said, screw it. 4 semesters of catfishing, I'm tired. Just like how I was tired of catfishing men on Roblox. So I decided to be my true self, and that was one of the best things I've made. I know that being your true self will lead you to happiness and help you to lead others to change. So, as I said, I was tired of making my conversion story my personality. My best friend and people at Prayer were telling me to go on a mission, go find a wife, both of which I do not care about, and I don't want a wife yet. I'm only 19. So, when I shared these facts with people, they were like, "You're kind of weird." I was like, "Oh, okay." So, I asked myself, am I an apostate for not going on a mission? Am I gay for not going on dates? Is my music taste just giving people a false reality of myself? Why can't I just be me here? I remember putting on my Sunday best personality every morning just to rip it off every chance I could. My 2 biggest fears are people's disapprovals and having no friends. But luckily, I found some. And I was wondering, how can people think I am a child of God, but still judge so self-righteously? This commandment of love is subjective to all of us. And I believe it leads to the culture at BYU Idaho. But this needs to change, and this change starts with you. History has taught us that just diversity matters and change matters. Look at the equal rights movement, the rise of diversity in America, the rise of Gen Z's influence in the world. We have seen an increase in social justice awareness. And according to a study by Stanford Center for Advanced Studies for Behavioral Sciences, Gen Zs generally are caring, diverse, and value authenticity. But not all of us are in the same generation. We could be a Gen Z, Gen Alpha, or Millennial. But no matter the generation you're in, we're all in this together. The pros of understanding who we are in this culture is we understand each other. We show that we're actual humans and not some robot Mormons. And we become disciple leaders. Now, that sounds familiar. BYU Idaho's mission statement is to develop disciples of Jesus Christ who are leaders in their home, the church, and their communities. Now, what is a leader, and how can you be a leader if you don't know who you are? Well, Harvard Business School shares that a leader is influential, transparent, innovative, accountable, active, and resilient. Now, I want to talk more about resilience. I have my personal hot takes about many controversial topics. For example, Greek life, LGBTQ plus community, my taste in music. I have found myself defending Greek life. Yeah, there's hazing incidents, but they actually banned it. The LGBT community doesn't align with the Family Proclamation, but they're still good people. My music, playing video games can lead to violence. But that's not true. Look at me. I'm a Nicki Minaj fan, and I'm still a good person. So, as steadfast I am in these beliefs that I have, these hot takes, the people here are also steadfast in their beliefs. And I believe it's how their parents are raised. My parents raised me to be free. So, the way parents teach their kids sticks with them. But change is generational. And I found this to be true. We need human approval, and with human approval, we have to find common ground between church standards and the world standards. So, what is common ground? Common ground is being able to immerse yourself with people out of your comfort. Everyone is on their path of life, even here at BYU Idaho. Not everyone wants the desirous family or going on a mission. Some people don't even want to be part of the church anymore. But this is not a problem in the real world because they got their own standards. Everyone just cares about themselves. I've lived through it for 18 years, and a little change when I came up here was needed to immerse myself into common ground with how I was raised and how I can be more acceptable to people here. I love the foundation that BYU Idaho has. Their foundation on Jesus Christ, education, to the point where Jesus Christ is literally in everything you learn. You can take an accounting class and somehow find Jesus Christ in it. But the standards of the world is not like that. It's according to how the society believes, which is it changes a lot between the generations. So, here at BYU Idaho, how can we find common ground with the church standards and the world standards? Well, there's a lot of people here. A lot of people go to BYU Idaho. People have different stories. People have experiences that make them who they are. They could be born and raised in the church. They could have a rebellious phase. They may be a convert to the church. They may have an intense story or a very simple conversion story. But it all requires change, a change of heart. Look around a campus when you walk around. You will see people with tattoos. You will see people that say some bad words. These people, you may look at them and be like, oh, they're an apostate. I shouldn't hang out with them. But they're really your brother and sisters in Christ. They deserve the love that Jesus has for them as much as Jesus has for you. And ultimately, Jesus taught love. He taught us to love our neighbors as ourselves. And how can we love someone if we're judging them? Or we view someone as a project of repentance and not an actual person? Well, we are on rich soil here at BYU Idaho, and just immerse yourself. I'm not telling you to go drink, smoke, have sex. Don't change yourself for the standard, for just to understand who people are around you. You don't have to change to be understanding. You just talk to them, learn their story, and love them. As I said, we are on rich soil here at BYU Idaho. We can't just include the steadfast in faith. Yeah, they're good for your testimony, and they'll lead you to be better, be closer to Christ. But are you really preparing yourself to be immersed in the real world where not everyone holds the same standards, where not everyone is a Christian, not everyone is just strict? But how can we find diversity here on campus? We just have to seek it. How can you have a diverse relationship without seeking it? How can you have common ground without seeking it? And at some point, we're going to have find common ground. Like roots, people have different directions in life. People are going just everywhere, and we just have to show love. We don't want to lead people to what we want for them, for exaltation or whatever. People just want your love. And this requires a change of heart and to understand who you are and what standards you can compromise on and what you won't compromise on. So my experience with masking myself as the dream convert that holds the standards and realizing that I'm just happier to be my true self has led me to be happy and to be a leader in others with their personality and to show who they truly are. Common ground is very important to find. And I want to emphasize that you have to be you and be true. Thank you.
Thank you, Devon. Next up here, we got a message from Alexia Atwood. And Alexia is from Idaho Falls, Idaho. She's a sophomore studying communications with an emphasis in strategic organization and a cluster in apparel construction. Her dream job is to be a mom. A fun fact about Alexia is that she has taken a picture of her outfit every single day since she has started college. Well, today's photo can be remembered as the day that she gave her TED Talk. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Alexia Atwood.
about when you were a kid. You had all of the potential in the world. You could do anything you wanted to and become whoever you wanted to be. Parents, teachers, and other support systems put in so much time and effort to make sure that you had the best opportunities available and that you reaching your potential was the goal. You were forced to do your homework, try new foods, go to bed on time. You were encouraged to make new friends and meet new people. You were taught every day at school by teachers. When we were younger, reaching our potential was the priority. But then we grew up. But we're not done growing. As adults, it is up to us to keep striving towards reaching our potential. It is up to us to become our best selves. But when thinking about reaching our potential, we may ask why we need to reach it, how we're going to reach it, and when we should reach it. We live in a world that is so overly fine with just being average. Everybody is satisfied being complacent and comfortable, doing the easiest thing at all times. We shy away from everything that's uncomfortable, inconvenient, or difficult. We always take the easy way out. But this is making us weaker and weaker as a generation and weaker as a society. But that's not how it has to be. We have so much to offer and so much to give. Russell M. Nelson, president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, said, "You are among the best the Lord has ever sent to this world. You have the capacity to be smarter and wiser and have more impact on the world than any previous generation." That is so powerful. We have the ability to be smarter, wiser, and have more of an impact than ever before. But what are we going to do about that? Sure, that sounds nice, but what is going to happen to make us make that change? What's going to help us reach that capacity that we can make a change in this world? I believe that this is our purpose here on the earth. Our purpose is to become the best versions that we can be. We're supposed to come closer to Christ. That's our end goal. And we do that by trying to be the best versions of ourselves. In 20 years from now, I believe that we're going to look back and we're going to be happier with what we did do rather than what we didn't do. I was in the car with a friend one night and I asked him what his biggest fear was. He said his biggest fear was looking back on his life with regret for what he didn't do that he could have done. Are we going to look back with regrets on what we didn't do in our lives? When we get to the end of our days and we've lived a life, are we going to look in the mirror and be happy with who we've become? Are we going to look in the mirror at ourselves and be proud of who we are? Our purpose here is to become better. And reaching our potential not only helps us become a better person, but it helps us from digressing as well. Think of a flower. It grows each day to be its most beautiful self. But if it stops growing, it starts withering. And it dies. It's a fantasy to think that once we've reached a certain point in our lives, once we've gained a goal or achieved a skill, that we can stop working and we can stay there. But that's not the reality. In reality, we're all like this flower. The moment we stop actively growing, we start actively withering. So once we stop trying to reach our potential, not only are we not becoming our best selves, but we're digressing. We're becoming a worse version of ourselves. But how are we going to do this? How are we supposed to reach our potential? It sounds a little overwhelming and daunting and kind of scary. It sounds like too much work. And that's why people just don't do it, because it's hard and it takes some effort. But it doesn't have to be scary and hard and unachievable. The beauty of this whole thing is that it's through small and simple steps that make this all possible. It's through the small and simple actions that we're able to achieve our potential. I invite all of you to take a step back and look at your lives. What areas can you grow? What skill do you wish you had, or quality you wish could be refined? I'm sure we can all think of a few, whether that's spiritually, physically, intellectually, socially, any area of our life that just is lacking, because none of us are perfect. All of us have so much room for improvement. Once we decide an area that we would like to improve, then we just have to start. That's the hardest part. The hardest part is just starting, taking that action. And it's not going to be easy or convenient or comfortable, but it's possible. It's by that small and simple step forward that we're able to reach that goal. Maybe you want to read a certain book. Go to the library and check it out and open the cover. Maybe you want to become more active. Put on your workout shoes. Maybe you want to make new friends and meet new people or become more social. Go up to somebody and say hi. All of these things are so small, so undaunting. They're not that difficult, but it does take some effort. So we just have to start. Decide today what you're going to do to start being a better version of yourself. You don't decide to run a marathon and are able to do it that day. You have to work each day, taking step after step after step to reach that goal. And it's not supposed to happen all at once. You're not supposed to make a goal and find what you want to do better in your life, and then you're able to do it. You're not supposed to exhaust yourself at the beginning. Mosiah 4:28 says, "For it is not requisite that a man should run faster than he has strength. And again, it is expedient that he should be diligent, that thereby he might win the prize." It is the small and simple step, checking out the library book, putting on your workout shoes, saying hi to somebody. It's taking that step and then taking one more. And each step you take, you will grow closer and closer to your goal, but the steps will become easier and easier, more and more achievable. You'll become stronger and you'll be able to take on more than you were able to before. And remember to celebrate. Figure out where you're already killing it at and be proud of yourself for doing that. And when you do take that one step forward, applaud yourself for that. When you take the next step, be happy that you're in the right direction. Finally, I want to talk to you about why we should do this, or when we should do this, I should say. We need to do this the moment we decide we want to start being a better version of ourselves. And for most of us, I would hope that's right now. I hope that we decide we want to be a better version of ourselves at this moment. We can't wait for things to become easier, for things to clear up, thinking, okay, when this semester is over, then I will start learning this language. Or when I'm done with this homework assignment, then I will start reading that book. Or when I've started my career and I started a family, then I can start becoming this kind of person. That's never going to happen. If you don't start today, you won't start. You need to start the second you decide you want to reach your potential, or you never will. You can't keep waiting for tomorrow. Paul H. Dunn said, "If you are waiting for the perfect conditions to become who you want to be, your wait may last forever, and your idealized self will be scattered to the wind." We don't have time to wait. We don't have time to sit around, scroll through TikTok for hours, do mindless, numbing things that aren't going to put us at our potential. We have to start now. And it might not be this big event that we have to, but it's just one more step forward. It's just those small and simple things that will put us over the top, helping us reach our potential. So I invite all of you today to think about what you can do to improve your life, to help you reach your potential, to help you become the best version of yourself. Think about what you want to do and then act. Take that step today, no matter how small, how big, just take the step forward. It will change your life for the better. Remember that kid at the beginning? That kid is still you. You still have all of the potential in the world. So make that kid proud. and make future you proud. Thank you.
And that was Alexia Atwood. Next up here, we got Lily Garrett's going to be speaking to us. Lily is recently from Colorado Springs, Colorado. She's a sophomore studying communications with an emphasis in public relations. Her dream job is to become a spokesperson for a company. A fun fact about Lily is that she has a rubber duck collection complete with almost 200 ducks. Well, today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be honored to see one of the origins of Lily's public speaking journeys as a spokesperson for a company. Here is Lily Garrett.
When I was in high school, I was obsessed with boys, and I did not shy away from writing about them in my journal. On April 24th, 2018, I wrote, wow, so I don't want to make this journal all about boys, but I had this experience. Almost exactly 1 year later, I wrote pretty much the same thing. Okay, so I promise this journal won't be all about boys, but I had an experience. Coincidentally, I wrote almost the exact same thing 1 year later, and I wouldn't have known this unless I reflected upon my journal writing. I use my journals as a place to vent and to talk about my problems, my trials, but the good things that I went through and the experiences that I've gained. And what I wrote about the most was with boys and experiences that I had with them. So a few days after I wrote this journal entry, I looked in my journal and I ended up writing this. I was in denial. I'm a teenage girl, so it's okay to like a lot of boys, right? Then I reached a point of self-acceptance, and then I wrote, I kind of accepted the fact that I like a lot of boys. And then I go on to talk about a steak dance, which is just a recipe for love, of course. Growing up, I was such a hopeless romantic. I was watching romance movies all the time, and I have a lot of other journal entries that I could have shared today, but I'll spare myself the embarrassment and keep everyone wondering. I love my journals, and I love looking through them to see how much I have grown in a week, in a month, a year, and even a decade. I started journal keeping when I was 6 years old, and I wanted to be just like my mom. So I wrote in my journal all the time. And I unfortunately don't have the original journal with me here in Rexburg, or else I would have looked through it before this presentation. But if I did, I imagine I would have written something like this. I found this on a meme, so I don't know who this person is, but I'm assuming that they are pretty young. Over the years, my journaling styles have improved immensely. I, for one, don't write daily, and I'm actually far from it. Just like everybody else, on December 31st, I always made the goal that this year I'm going to write in my journal every single day of the year. This year it's going to be different. And so I start off really well the first few days of January, then I skip a day, but then it's okay because I write a double entry the next day. And then I miss a week, and I don't write anything until April. If this sounds all too familiar, you are not alone. There are some journal experts that prefer to not write daily because it can be very repetitive, boring, and feel more like a chore. When I decide to break out my journal, I find myself writing so much, and this can just be daunting. James W. Pennebaker, who is a social psychologist at the University of Texas, said that one of the interesting problems of writing too much, especially if you're going through a difficult time, is that writing becomes more like meditating, and that's the last thing in the world you need. My recommendation is to think of expressive writing as a life course correction. If you are distressed, Dr. Pennebaker advises to set aside 3 to 4 days to write about what you're going through, just for 20 minutes a day. And if it doesn't work, then stop what you're doing, because journaling isn't for everyone. He goes on to say to stop doing it, go jogging, go see a therapist, go to a church, or go to a bar. Maybe not that last one, but if it's not working for you, then stop doing it. But before you stop, make sure you're stopping for the right reasons, and before you start, make sure that you have the right tools. There are so many different ways to journal There's the classic pen to paper. There's electronically, you can open up a Google Doc. There's typewriting if you're feeling ambitious. But the method that has worked best for me is when I break out my journal when I remember to. I open my journal, crack the spine, sometimes have to dust it off, and I just let my pen roam free. And I notice a difference in myself when I journal versus when I don't journal. So why journal? Like, what's the point? There have been many studies that have shown that journaling helps with mental, emotional, and your spiritual self. And there are so many benefits that boost mindfulness or your working memory and your communication skills. Studies have shown that the 4 main benefits is that you'll be able to establish a better sleep schedule, a stronger immune system, more self-confidence, and a higher IQ. So the first one is sleep. When we are going through something traumatic or stressful, it weighs a lot on our minds. But once we're able to identify those feelings and voice the things that we're going through from our mind to the page, we are able to lift the taxing process that our brain is going through of trying to digress or progress through it. And we clear our minds and are able to sleep better. And sleeping better makes us perform better and boosts our overall health. And in college, we all need a good night's sleep because we have so much going on. So the second one is we will be able to establish a stronger immune system. So by establishing better sleeping habits, this in turn improves our immune system. And researchers are only beginning to see the effects of why it helps some people and why it doesn't help other people as much. There was a study done at Syracuse University where they took 107 asthma and arthritis patients, and they told them to write in their journal for 15 to 20 minutes a day for 3 days straight. Just those 3 days. They came back 4 months later, and 70 of those 107 patients showed improvement. Those that wrote about stressed improved more and deteriorated less. So writing helps people get better, and they also help the patients and kept them from getting worse. Third is you'll be able to have more self-confidence. When we are able to label our emotions by taking our thoughts and putting them down onto a page, we are able to acknowledge what we're going through and therefore boosts our minds positively, or our minds are positively effective, and we can feel refreshed and perform better and socialize more. I mean, raise your hand if you want to be able to perform better and socialize more and feel refreshed always. The fourth and final one is that we will be able, or journaling raises your IQ. Several studies have been done about the correlation of writing and IQ. When you write your thoughts and write in your journal, it forces you to think and express yourself, and you'll be able to have newfound vocabulary. Looking back from where I was a year ago, my vocabulary has improved, and I wouldn't have known unless I looked back at my journaling. And I know that if you start journaling now, that you will be able to look back in a year and see an IQ growth as well. So as we conclude, I wanted to share one last journal entry from the beginning of this semester. I wrote it on January 9th, 2024, specifically about this class. So those of us that are in this professional presentations class were given this paper at the beginning of the semester that outlines everything and every assignment that we'd have to do for the whole semester. I was extremely stressed. And this, for those of you who are not in this class is a little bit different. So instead of going to class, we go to work. And instead of earning points on our assignments, we earn money. I was so stressed. So I wrote about it in my journal. I wrote, my professor runs my professional presentations class like it's a job. I can't drop out of the class because I don't want to look like a quitter, and this class seems really cool, but I think this job might be just as bad as working at In-N-Out. While Brother Hackey was going over everything, my eyes started to tear up, and I was so stressed. After class, Brother Hackey came up to me and asked me if I was okay. He looked really concerned, and I felt so bad. I also felt really dumb. I laughed it off, but it got me thinking. He went out of his way to check on me, and I wanted to make it up to him, so I'm going to stay in this class.
Well, Brother Hockey, here I am today, a place where I was so terrified to be. So thank you for checking up on me. Journaling helps us identify our goals and highlight how we can improve. I will be journaling about this moment later, and I'll make my past self so happy. So let's embrace the power of pen to paper by being able to accomplish our goals, navigate life's challenges, and create our own narratives. So I encourage you all to pick up the pen, create a new note on your phone, a new Word document, and embark on a journey of reflection and transformation. You will be able to establish better sleeping habits, gain a higher self-confidence, have a stronger immune system, and higher intelligence. Together, let's write our way to a brighter and a more empowered future.
Let's hear it one more time for Lily Garrett. Hopefully we'll all go home and write about the things we learned today. Next up speaking for us is going to be Grace Shirley. Grace Shirley is from Idaho Falls, Idaho, and is studying communications with an emphasis in public relations. Her dream job is to be a publicist for a publishing house. Something Grace is very proud of is that she has a 1,070-day streak on Duolingo. Let's find out what language Grace has to share with us today. Here is Grace Shirley.
There are an estimated 7,000 languages spoken throughout the world today, not including visual languages such as sign language or computer coding languages, or ancient languages such as Sumerian or Aramaic. But why so many? Well, language in all its forms, from ancient cave paintings to modern-day emojis, serves as the platform for communication. Throughout time, we have learned that the blueprint is connection and language is the tool. Throughout time, humans have proved an innate desire to connect with one another. This connection drives us to overcome loneliness, seek understanding, gain empathy, and build relationships despite cultural differences. Think back to the earliest humans huddled around a flickering fire exchanging stories. Then, fast forward to inventions such as the telegraph, the telephone, the radio. Innovations like these gave us the ability, the thrill, of connecting voices across vast distances. Today, we have an array of communicative tools such as social media, video messaging, instant messaging, all testaments to the fundamental human desire for connection. If you were to open the App Store on your phone right now and look at the top 20 apps on the App Store, at least 10 of them are for the sole purpose of connecting. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Tinder, Discord, etc. And that just barely scratches the surface. Technology, but especially the internet and social media platforms, give us the ability to step outside of our narrow worldview and understanding. It gives us tools to learn new things, and it allows us to connect with people that might have a different background than us. I could use the internet to learn about someone from a different country, culture, or religion, and then naturally have the desire to want to get a first-person perspective from someone of that country, culture, or religion. In the past, this would have been impossible. This kind of new connection and new knowledge would have been difficult, proven the circumstances. Before boats connected commerce, planes connected lands, and technologies connected peoples, it would have been really difficult. You would have had to, your world would be limited to where you lived and the people who lived there with you. It would be limited to the books that you had access to, and for many people throughout history, this kind of access to education was next to impossible. But we have Google, we have Wikipedia, we have YouTube. We have a plethora of digital tools at our fingertips that give us the opportunity and privilege of more. We can connect further and deeper than we have ever been able to before. New studies are showing that humans need connection just as much as we need food or water. Social neuroscientist Matthew Lieberman writes in his new book, Social, Why Our Brains Are Wired to Connect, that this is what our brains were wired for, reaching to and interacting with others. These social adaptations are central to making us the most successful species on Earth. And of course, language is the medium by which this is possible. Conversation cannot exist without language. So again, that foundation for conversation, the blueprint for connection, and language is the tool. Like all tools, language is constantly evolving and adapting and changing throughout time and becoming better. We've evolved from ancient Aramaic to modern-day Arabic. Scandinavian languages came from Old Norse. And these are all examples of natural languages. You know natural language. It's what I'm speaking right now. It's what missionaries learn when they go to a different country. Natural languages are taught in schools and posted on signage. Natural languages are languages that have existed for hundreds or thousands of years and have adapted and evolved over time to become the languages that we use now. Even English is constantly evolving and came from other languages such as Latin, French, Dutch, and Afrikaans. But natural languages aren't the only languages that are being spoken around the world. There are also artificial or planned languages, more commonly known as constructed languages, or conlangs for short. Conlangs are designed by one specific person for one specific purpose. For example, J.R.R. Tolkien's Elvish languages for The Lord of the Rings or Klingon from Star Trek. But artificial languages aren't only used for fictional purposes. There have been efforts to adopt and implement constructed languages for use as a global lingua franca. And that's basically an international auxiliary language, or a communication that can be used from two people from different nations that do not share a common first language. So they communicate through an additional foreign language, or often a constructed language. Linguists like to use constructed languages for use as these international auxiliary languages, which further proves the point that we are wired for connection. Linguists put forth lots of effort to build and implement conlangs for use as international auxiliary languages. And this is one man's quest to unite the world through an easy-to-learn language that can be shared by people around the world. This is the story of Esperanto, arguably the most popular constructed language. Esperanto was built in the late 1800s by a Jewish eye doctor named L.L. Zamenhof. Zamenhof was fluent in Russian and Polish, but also studied German, Italian, English, Spanish, French, Lithuanian, and Hebrew. He built the language using existing European languages and spent around 10 years developing it. By 1905, Zamenhof had published 2 books as definitive guides to the language and its grammar. According to the introduction of Anua Libro, or first book in Esperanto, Zamenhof invented Esperanto to reduce the time and labor spent in learning foreign tongues and to foster harmony between people of different countries. He wrote, "Were there but an international language, all translations would be made into it alone, and all nations would be united in a common brotherhood." Esperanto experienced its ups and downs and its growth and evolution, but ultimately spread through the publication of his novels and annual congresses where Esperantists could meet, speak, and learn the language. Because it is built from existing languages, Esperanto is easy to learn and follows a simple and consistent grammar structure. Estimates on the number of current active speakers vary widely between about 100,000 and 2 million, because it's hard to survey for fluency. But there are about 1,000 documented cases where children have Esperanto as their first or native language because it's the only shared language of their parents. Esperanto was the 64th language to be added to Google Translate in 2012, even before languages like Cebuano, Kazakh, Malagasy, or Hawaiian. Esperanto was the first constructed language to be added to Duolingo in 2015, and Esperanto's Wikipedia page, Wikipedia, is the largest Wikipedia in a constructed language. I first learned about Esperanto back in 2022 when I wanted to add another language on Duolingo, and I wondered what this green flag with a star was. So I ended up taking a major deep dive into Esperanto and to constructed languages in general. Linguists love constructed languages because it further illustrates that point that humans are wired for connection. After all, why would we go to the lengths to create a brand new language if not for the sole purpose of connecting with people that speak a different language than us? Zamenhof's original vision for Esperanto was to promote world peace and unity. Esperanto means the hopeful one because Zamenhof's goal was to create a language for people who may not share a common past, but wish to share a common future. This concept of one world, one language does exist through Esperanto's legacy. Esperantists or speakers of Esperanto gain access to international contacts and international experiences through a common language that they can apply anywhere in the world. For example, I could go to Brazil and speak Esperanto with a native Brazilian person who also speaks Esperanto and have a native experience in Brazil without even having to speak Portuguese. I could go to Belgium and speak Esperanto. I could go to Bulgaria and speak Esperanto. You get the idea. Esperanto opens up the world to its users. That's the transformative vision of Esperanto, to promote peace and to widen your worldview. But do you have to learn this fake or useless language to still fulfill Zamenhof's vision of a world united through a global language? No, you don't have to. Esperanto, you don't have to learn Esperanto to still be able to embrace the idea of connecting to the rest of the world through a common shared language, the language of connection. Modern technology gives us tools to widen our worldview and connect with people that are different than us. The internet especially expands our worldview. The world may be big geographically, but it's also big culturally too. And the internet allows us to expand our world and learn more about the people around us. Because when our world gets bigger, our life becomes better. Imagine a world where communication flows freely and cultural barriers are broken down by empathy and inclusion. People who travel the world and have multicultural or international experiences all report that these experiences enrich their lives. But we can still have the global benefit of these global experiences through a simple desire to want to have it. If you think about your past or your ancestors, you can find out about where you're from. You can wonder what that country's like now, or even think about ways to apply some of those traditions or cultures or foods to your own lives. Or look to the future at your travel bucket list. I really want to visit Norway. I've been learning Norwegian for the past few years, and I've done a lot of research about Norwegian culture and everyday life, and I even had a Norwegian pen pal. I was able to connect with my pen pal by asking questions about the language and learning more about the culture. And now I can more easily connect with my half Norwegian cousins because we have that richer, deeper understanding through a shared understanding. Esperanto is a visionary symbol of harmony and multiculturalism. It's a goal for a future of generosity, equal access to education and language, and optimism about the future of what humans can do when we work together. Esperanto might not have had the global dominance that Zamenhof originally envisioned when he created the language, but it stands as a powerful message that humans really are wired for connection. This desire for connection pushes the boundaries of natural evolved language. Zamenhof's original goal for Esperanto was to have a shared language to unite the world. And this goal is still possible through modern technology or even just the desire to make it happen. When we expand our world, it gets bigger and it gets better. Let's use the tools of language to celebrate the cultural differences of others, celebrate their stories, and remember that we all have a common, unbreakable desire for human connection. Because humans crave connection. We need it and we seek it everywhere. We use language to achieve connection through conversation. Because after all, connection is the blueprint and language is the tool.
Thank you, Grace, for teaching us a little bit about languages, connections, and communicating with others. Last speaker we have for you today is Aaron Williams. Aaron is from Rigby, Idaho, and he is a junior studying communication with his emphasis in broadcast production. His dream job is to be... A fun fact about Aaron is that he was a nationally ranked high school singer while he was in high school. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it one time for Aaron Williams.
All right. In 2021, I was in my second year of being a pest control service technician in, good old Minnesota, eh? My accent isn't that good. I was only out there for 2 years. Now, I was the bug guy. You hear of summer sales up here? Well, when they would get their sales, I was the one who would show up. Now, it seems easy enough as a job. You would just spray houses for bugs. You would sweep off like the walls for any spider webs, wasp nests, things like that. But it was a very technical job. Before I could even go out and service, I had to get over 200 hours of training plus 6 licenses that were given to me by the state of Minnesota through their agricultural department. After about 2 years of this, I knew what I was doing, I felt. A soft skill that wasn't listed in the job description was actually customer relations and communication interpersonally. You see, I was working 60-hour weeks. I would work on average 10 houses a day, Monday through Saturday. I got to know a lot of people. What I would do, I would introduce myself at the door, let them know that I'm here for them. I'd give them a rundown of what my schedule was looking like at their house. I'd ask them any questions if they had any concerns or problem areas. And then I'd run over a few housekeeping items, such as their address or rules when it came to our product. Now, our product is marketed, and it is kid and pet friendly. However, it has to dry and settle in because it's still toxic when it's wet. So I would remind everybody that I met, hey, if you have small kids or if you have pets of any kind, just keep them away for about 45 minutes just so it dries up. Most of the time, people were really chill with that. They don't want their kids getting sick. They don't want Fluffy getting sick. I was in Brooklyn Park one day. It was a hot June morning. It was already like 85 degrees at like 9 a.m. And I knock on this lady's door. I'm going through my rundown, and I get to that portion, and she says, ho, 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 ho. If it's kid and pet friendly, why do I have to keep my kids and pets off of it? I explained to her, well, it just needs to dry and settle in. We'll be good to go. She said, but if it's kid and pet friendly, I don't need to bring my pets in. We went in circles for about 5 minutes. And I could see, just this venomous kind of anger coming out of her. She thought I was lying to her and misleading her. I was getting frustrated. I'm on a schedule. She was my second house of the day. I had 8 more to go. Eventually, I looked at her in the eyes and I said, ma'am, you mentioned you have pets. Do you have any children or have had children? She said, yes. And I said, so when you would dress them up for formal occasions, such as a church service or a nice dinner or something like that, would you use hairspray with them? She said, absolutely. I'm like, it was safe for the kids, right? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, would you spray the hairspray into a cup and let them drink it? She's like, no, that would make my kids sick. And I'm like, that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's the same concept. Eventually, we did go through with the service, but I noticed my mood was shot for the rest of the day. I was frustrated. I was behind. I was like, why did that lady argue with me for so long? I could have been done so much earlier. We could have gotten through it. She was probably very mad at me because I was not very kind to her in regards to her intelligence and stuff. I could have come off better. There were no winners in that conversation. Now, there's been a growing rift in between employees and in between customers. I've worked in customer service for over 10 years. I'm only 25 years old, so that's a long time. I've been around. I've also been a customer for, 25 years. And recently, there's been a growth in entitlement for unrealistic expectations from customers. They want things done, sure, that's rational, but they want things that can't be done in timeframes that can't be met. In turn, with lack of support, this makes employees overworked, stressed, which all leads to built-up resentment. That tanks quality. It tanks experience. In my research, I've pinpointed where I think this rift began. It began in 1909 by a man named Henry Gordon Selfridge in London, England. He owned a department store, and he coined the term, the customer is always right. Now, there's a fallacy in there. It's the word always. In my life, I've found that there is one truth. And here's a statistic for you. 99.99% of all people who have ever lived on this earth have made a mistake or been wrong at some point in their life. The answer is Jesus Christ. So if that's the case, how can a customer always be right? Well, it can't, because nobody is always right. You see, there's been a lack of respect, kindness, and humility on both sides between employees and between customers. I looked up some business statistics because I wanted to understand how important customer service actually is to any sort of company. I found a study. They took 500 CEOs of US corporations. This was done from 2019 to 2021, around the time I had that spat with the lady and her dog. So customer service is considered an expense rather than a growth opportunity. So they were asked this. In 2019, most people saw it as a growth opportunity. As the years went on, more and more employers, more and more CEOs saw it as more of an expense. When it comes to the business side of businesses, when it comes to the fine lines, the money, more often than not, you want to make more money than you're losing. So if customer service is becoming a higher expense, then you might not want to throw so much money into it, so much care into it. Now, some interesting statistics that actually go against what a lot of CEOs are going were given by Blake Morgan. He's a customer experience futurist. And he gave this in Forbes magazine. He said that 84% of US companies that work to improve their customer service experience report an increase in their revenue. 77% of consumers say that inefficient customer service detract from their overall quality of life. Customers switching due to poor service costs in US companies cost a total of $1.6 trillion every single year between all of these companies. And the top reasons that customers switch brands is because they feel underappreciated. If that is how the customer feels, that can turn into more snappy, more angry decision-making on their part. It can also instill those same feelings in the person who is the employee who's working with them. Now, how do we fix this? How do we even remotely figure out where we've gone wrong and how we can go from there? Well, going back to respect, humility, and kindness, I thought about emotions. And there's a term for emotional conditioning, a definition given by psychologist Dee Berntsen in 2007. It says that emotion cognition research has revealed that exposure of emotional expressions can induce an onlooker's emotional condition. These emotions arise unconsciously and are initiated by cues in the environment that distinctly affect people's moods. If you flash somebody a smile, are positive with them, inadvertently, subconsciously, they'll feel more positive. They might flash a smile back. They might flash a smile to the next person. The same works in reverse. If you're mean, venomous, upset, sad, grumpy, you pass that on to somebody, well, that emotion can transfer too. So the solution is to remember there are things that you can't control. You can't control how somebody else is going to act towards you. But what you can do is control how you're going to act towards somebody else. If we bring positivity, if we bring respect, kindness, love for one another back into our business, back into our lives with everybody else here on earth, it'll spread. And the world will just get a little bit more positive every single day with every single person that we meet. So, will you be one of those grumpy Gus's? One of the people that kind of ruins everybody's day? Or will you strive to be the positive and be a help for a greater solution? It's all your choice.
That's Aaron for you guys. Make some noise for Aaron one more time. And we'll get all our speakers to come up here, please. We're going to take a photo and give you guys one last chance to cheer for them because that was an amazing job they did today. We also want to thank you guys for coming. There's some cookies still at the back. Make sure you grab them on your way out. And thanks for coming. Let's hear it one more time for our TED Talk group.